Number 7. Jessica Camilleri. In July 2019, residents in Sydney's St. Clair neighborhood were frightened by the screams and noise coming from one of the nearby homes. The property belonged to 57-year-old Rita Camilleri, who lived there with her daughter, 25-year-old Jessica Camilleri. Neighbors could clearly make out the two women getting into a loud and intense argument with one another. After hearing the intense screams, neighbors rushed into the home and found a horrific scene. They found the body of 57-year-old Rita Camilleri without a head. Jessica was not inside the home when they arrived. Instead, she was standing in a neighbor's driveway soaked in blood. Thankfully, she didn't try to escape. Rita Camilleri's missing head was later found in a trash can of the same driveway her daughter was waiting, covered with blood. To make things worse, a 4-year-old boy who's thought to be a relative of the Camilleris was rushed to the hospital from the scene after suffering a serious head injury. It is believed that he witnessed the murder incident. When police arrived, they said that the state the 57-year-old mother was in was as bad as it gets as far as the crime scene can go. When Jessica was arrested, her hands were wrapped in plastic by the police to protect the forensic evidence. She was later formally charged with the murder of her own mother and denied bail after medical evaluation was conducted. Jessica's legal team argued for her release on the grounds of mental health issues, but in March 2021, her mental health plea was rejected by the courts and she was sentenced to 21 years in a maximum security prison. In Australian courts, this is the most severe sentence that can be given, and even though the judge agreed that the defendant was obviously mentally ill, he believed the extreme nature of Camilleri's crimes called for no concessions to be made in her favor. Number 6. NATALIE MAHER. In October 2021, police in the Australian state of Tasmania found the body of 71-year-old Veronica Korstefin dead in her bed. Her body had been lying there alone for weeks before anyone found it, and body cam footage from the discovery showed that there was a pillow placed right on top of Veronica's face. An autopsy also revealed that she showed many signs of struggling before death. Very quickly, a murder investigation started to look into who could have done such a horrible thing to a senior citizen in such a safe part of the country. The first person the police thought to call was Veronica's 48-year-old daughter, NATALIE MAHER, who lived with her in the house. They were surprised to find out that NATALIE had left the state a few weeks before, around the same time police believed the murder went down. They sent out an arrest warrant for NATALIE in Tasmania as well as her home state in Western Australia. There, she was arrested by local officers who found Veronica's cell phone with her. She could not explain why she had her mother's phone. More investigation showed that all of Veronica's money had been taken out of her bank account and transferred into NATALIE's accounts recently as well. NATALIE had come back to live with Veronica about 2 months before her death thanks to some financial issues. She claimed the death happened by accident after the two got into a heated argument about NATALIE's drinking problems, and that Veronica was accidentally killed while NATALIE was defending herself. But the judge noted the obvious power imbalance between the two as well as NATALIE's actions after her mom's death. The jury unanimously decided to convict NATALIE MAHER of first-degree murder of Veronica Korstefin, and she was sentenced to 23 years behind bars in prison, but she will be eligible for parole after serving 13 years of the sentence. Number 5. Lisa Marie Kaplan. In September 2017, police entered a home in Palmerton, Pennsylvania after neighbors had called for a wellness check. Once they entered the property, they found the body of 71-year-old Sandra Marie Barnt. Her body was lying on the floor covered by a blanket, and once the officers removed it, they saw an arrow sticking out of her neck. Sandra shared the home with her 51-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie Kaplan, but when the police found the body, the house was completely empty with no one in sight. When the police asked the neighbors about what happened, they said that they didn't really hear any weird noises that day, but they did notice Lisa Kaplan walking in and out of the house with a shovel over the past few days. Lisa also had a pretty hefty criminal record before this incident even happened. Some of her crimes included identity theft and lying while under oath. After the initial investigation, police believed Sandra had been shot by a crossbow, and Lisa was their primary suspect. The detective managed to get their hands on the cell phone of Lisa's boyfriend and some messages she sent to him that showed her confessing to the crime. Lisa was found and arrested a few days later and was charged with the first-degree murder of her own mother, Sandra Marie Brandt. Her defense argued that Lisa had a long history of mental health problems that probably caused her to commit the crime. There was some truth to that, considering that while Lisa was waiting for trial in a Carbon County jail cell back in 2018, she was found dead by jail wardens. The police believe she may have taken her own life. What do you make of this case? Let us know in the comments below and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 4. Rachel HUTSON. In 2013, a Thanksgiving weekend turned deadly for one family when Donald Hudson, a man from Chesapeake, Virginia, was out shopping for Black Friday when he received a call from his daughter, 19-year-old Rachel Hudson. During the conversation, Rachel confessed to killing her own mother, 58-year-old Susan Lee, while profusely apologizing to her father. Donald was skeptical at first, and when he said he didn't believe what she was saying, she sent him a photo with the proof. He saw a picture of his wife lying on the floor lifeless with bloodstains all around her. Apparently it happened because of an argument Rachel had with her mother the day before. They had been fighting for a while and it was having a serious impact on the family. During the argument, Susan said that Rachel was crazy, and this apparently caused Rachel to spiral out of control, go to her room, and dig out a shotgun. She had planned on taking her own life using the gun, but after thinking for a moment, she realized that she didn't want her mom to find the body, so she went down and shot her mother instead. After this, Rachel decided to text her dad for a final word before she carried through with the act, but her father managed to talk her out of taking her own life somehow. The grieving man then had to go through the pain of calling the police on his own child, and 19-year-old Rachel was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. 2 years later, when Rachel was 21, she was convicted of the crime and sentenced to serve out 18 years in prison. The reduced sentence was likely thanks to the fact that Rachel was severely mentally ill at the time of the killing, and the fact that she had pleaded guilty, admitted openly to all of her crimes. She is expected to get released once she turns 39 years old and said that she deeply regrets her actions. Number 3. Cheyenne Jessie. In August 2015, 25-year-old Cheyenne Jessie dialed 911 to report that her 6-year-old daughter and her 50-year-old father, Mark Weekly, had disappeared. Cheyenne was pushed by her family members to report the missing persons case after they had not heard from her in 2 weeks. Detectives quickly came to the scene, and soon after, they called Cheyenne in for an investigation and questioning. Surprisingly enough, after being pressed about where she was, what she was doing, and making her go through every single small detail about her life over the past few days, Cheyenne cracked and confessed to straight up murdering her father and daughter. The prosecution soon started to build a case against Cheyenne Jessie. They claimed that she planned on killing her daughter because she was getting in the way of her romantic relationship with her new boyfriend, Matthew Monroe. Apparently, Monroe had been complaining about the child, who had behavioral issues, over the course of their relationship. The prosecution did not mention a motive for her father's killing, though, but it is assumed that the dad may have known about her plans or caught her while in the act. She was arrested immediately after confessing to the crimes and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecution first sought the death penalty for Cheyenne, and if she had gotten it, she would have been the first woman in the state of Florida to ever receive such a punishment. Later, during her trial, Cheyenne said it wasn't her, but actually her boyfriend who carried out the murders. As for the initial confession, she said it was because she was afraid of what her boyfriend would do to her if she told the truth. Ultimately, the court did not buy the story, and, with the evidence presented by the prosecution, Cheyenne was sentenced to life in prison. Number 2. Twilight Killer. In April 2016, 14-year-olds Kim Edwards and Lucas Markham became Britain's youngest pair of murderers. Their teenage romance started because they were both fans of the hit Twilight film series. Kim's mother was not a huge fan of her daughter's new boyfriend. She noticed that the boy had a short temper and did not respect her whenever he spoke with her. She had been plotting with some of her other children to get the young couple to break up, and needless to say, this didn't make Kim happy. Kim threatened to run away from home, among numerous other things, if they ever made her leave Lucas. Because of these drastic claims, she was taken to get a psychiatric evaluation by her mother, and they found no signs of mental illness. But Kim's relationship with her mom kept getting worse. At the same time, she noticed that her mother preferred her 13-year-old younger sister, Katie Edwards. Around October 2015, Kim vented out some of her frustrations about her mom to Lucas, who then suggested that they kill her mom to finally be free. After quite a bit of hesitation, Kim finally agreed, and from that point on, they spent every moment planning things out. On the night of April 13, 2016, Kim and Lucas attacked Kim's mother and sister while they were sleeping. Kim suffocated her mom with a pillow, while Lucas stabbed her in the neck multiple times. After this, Kim had a severe panic attack and asked Lucas to kill Katie as well, which he did in nearly exactly the same way. Neither of the kills were clean, and both victims suffered through agonizing pain for almost 10 minutes until they finally died. After this, the teenage lovers then turned on the TV, watched Twilight, and had sex on the same bed Kim's mother was killed in. In November 2016, both Kim and Lucas were convicted of the double homicide and sentenced to 20 years in prison. They were tried as adults for their gruesome crimes. Number 1. Sierra Halseth. In April 2021, 16-year-old Sierra Halseth and her 18-year-old boyfriend Aaron Guerrero were arrested in Salt Lake City, Utah in response to an arrest warrant sent out by the Las Vegas Police Department, where they were extradited to. The two were accused of murdering 45-year-old Daniel Halseth, who happened to be the father of one of the suspects. A few days earlier, Daniel's body was found completely burnt to a crisp inside the garage of his Las Vegas home. An investigation showed that Daniel had already been killed before being set on fire. There was evidence that the suspects had tried to dismember the victim before lighting the entire house on fire to hide the evidence. There were burn marks found all over the home. But it seems like the suspects were unsuccessful in their attempt at burning the house down, since only the garage holding Daniel's body was caught over in flames. An autopsy report confirmed that Daniel had been stabbed over 70 times all over his body and was mutilated beyond recognition before being burned. Surveillance camera footage showed Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero leaving the home shortly after the fire. Before the murder, Sierra and Aaron had been forbidden by their parents, who were divorced, from seeing each other since they discovered a plot by the young couple to rob them and move to Los Angeles with the money. The parents also contacted Guerrero's parents and agreed that their children should no longer see each other romantically. Police were able to track the couple to Salt Lake City, Utah, since they had stolen Daniel's debit card and his personal vehicle shortly after the murder. They were not very clever about hiding their trail, though, and it didn't take long for the Salt Lake City Police Department to catch them. After being extradited to Las Vegas, the pair were formally charged with first-degree murder, arson, robbery with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit robbery, and 4 counts of fraudulent use of a credit or debit card. Prosecutors did not seek the death penalty, and in May 2022, Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero were sentenced to life in prison after a guilty verdict. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you had a child like this? Which one of these daughters would you definitely disown? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on The Bad Badger.